friends. Welcome to Coding Garden. And Sej, thank you for the prime. Good to see you all. Glad to have you here. Today is going to be a variety and content stream. So I have a couple of things on the list that I want to try and do. And fixing the chat overlay is not on that list. So honestly, I kind of like this chat overlay. For the longest time, Coding Garden had like a very custom chat overlay. I think one thing we might do is create a chat overlay that looks like this, but has all of the extra stuff. And Scorix, thank you for that prime sub. So like we can have like the badges and the teams and stuff on this. It's not dead. I just have other things to do, right? It's like if I spend time working on that, then I get nothing else done, you know? Welcome in everyone. And who is that? BB, I see you in the chat. You should have come and said, hey, I got to say hi to a lot of people, and I gave away a lot of stickers at React Summit. Basically, anybody that came up to me and said hi, I gave them stickers. But I'm glad you got to see me. But next time you see me, you should say hi. But welcome in, everyone. I'll let you know what's on the list. So the first up is I want to create. I'm not even going to call it a roadmap. I'm going to call this a skill tree. Your stickers have not been sent yet, but I'm gonna give away some stickers today, and then that's gonna be in a group of stickers that I give away that I mail out, including yours this weekend. So yeah, I want to create a skill tree. You've probably heard of like a web dev roadmap or React roadmap or whatever else. It's basically, it tells you, and James Dev, thank you for the resub. It tells you what you I might send you chips. I need to see what the postage is like for an actual package, because sending a letter is easy. I just put some international stamps on it. But if I want to send a package, I don't know how expensive that's gonna get. Yeah, you don't see any IRL release. Listen, next week. I have to balance things, right? Like YouTube viewership is down, Twitch viewership is down. I need to do things that people are interested in, and working on stream meta stuff I don't think is as interesting. And also, like, my IRL streams aren't as popular, so I don't think people are interested in that. I don't know. Yeah, the Sprout Kit repo. How you do that. There. The link is there. The repo is called Sprout Kit. Okay, but a skill tree will essentially tell you these are the things you need to know and in what order. Very similar to like skill trees in video games. I don't play a lot of video games, so I don't have as much experience with it. But I'm aware of skill trees in video games and like role-playing games and stuff like that. And so what I want to do is I want to create my own version of a skill tree without cheating. I'm not going to look at roadmap or some of the other skill trees that have been created. I'm going to create my own that basically says, if you want to learn React, these are the things that you need to know before, like prerequisites. Like what are the dependencies? And then also, if you're going to learn React, what are some of the first things that you should learn in React? This is what I want to work on first. And I'm open to input. Basically, this is kind of be a brainstorming session of what does someone need to know before learning React. And we're going to basically create a dependency tree of it. I think my idea is to use this. So this is based on d3.js, and it also uses d3.dag, which has like an automatic layout of nodes. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fork this code. And right now it's reading from this JSON file, and we will essentially create our own JSON file where each of the nodes is like DOM manipulation in JavaScript or HTML tags, semantic HTML, and basically we'll build out this JSON file which can be visualized like this as a skill tree. And eventually I also want to make it interactive. So for any given node in the skill tree, you can click on it, get links to articles to learn, and also like YouTube videos to learn and stuff like that. But basically, I want to give new React devs a very clear path to learning React. So, and honestly, yes, this will be completely applicable if you want to learn Vue or if you want to learn Svelte. The marketing term is React because everyone's trying to learn React, and there are a lot of beginners that just jump right into React without the prerequisites, and so the goal is to help them with that. So this is what we're going to spend the first hour or so on. Then I showed the other day that you can run interactive, like you can create commands from the command line. You're starting your front end bootcamp on Tuesday. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, really, this skill tree will kind of help you, and ideally, the bootcamp you're starting will have a similar skill tree or a similar ordering of things that you learn. People have asked a lot about promises and asynchronous JavaScript. So if we get here, we will, I don't know, 10 tips for asynchronous JS or something like that. Or like 10 or 5 common mistakes I see when people make when using promises. We'll figure out something for that. I've also had this idea on tips for live coding. I think I'm really good at live coding, and I want to distill that down into a few tips that I can share with other people. They're going to teach jQuery. That's fine. jQuery is fine. But yeah. So to learn async JavaScript, we'll have to await. Yes. And we'll keep using .then and .catch. The thing is, you have to know .then and .catch to even be able to use async await. And if you don't, you're missing out. You're lacking some base of understanding. Yeah, exactly. Like Stas just said, you need to know promises. And then so this is a potential like conference talk I want to give, but maybe we'll start ideating on it because I've talked about this before. When you choose React for your next project, you're also choosing to make 100 other choices. You're not just choosing React. And so that could be interesting to talk about as well. But this is the plan for today. We're just going to hang out. If you're not interested in this stuff, please just stick around. My viewership is tanking. Hey, BTRSL, thank you for that prime. My viewership is tanking. I realize it's like people aren't working from home anymore. I haven't been as active on YouTube or Twitter, so you maybe don't know that I'm live streaming, but I can only do this so long. So please stick around because your viewership essentially turns into other people watching as well, based on me being in the software and game development category. So please stick around, please. If you want Coding Garden to keep happening, stick around. Next up, freebies. We're going to give away some stickers. I haven't tried this scene yet, so the cameras might be broken, but give me a second. Wow, surprisingly, it works. Okay, so these are the stickers that I have to give away. They're shiny, they're awesome. You can only get them here. And if I do something like that, yeah, they're shiny, they're awesome. You can only get them here, and I'm gonna give them away right now. Yes. My plan initially was to like create those as sticker packs and then sell them. But I ran into issues thinking about like licensing and stuff like that. So I'm giving them away for free. Let's do the giveaway right here, right now. Hopefully this doesn't break. All right, in the chat, !enter, you'll be entered to win. Let's see if it works. And I'll give you 3 minutes. Looks like it works. I'll give you 3 minutes to enter. Pin. Do I have a pack I sent you like last time? No, I should probably set up some kind of online store. The only thing is like it's a one-man show. So if anybody actually ordered stickers, I would need to pack them up and ship them myself. It's quite the it requires a lot. So I'd like to do that eventually. Been trying to. Didn't you win at one point, Razorson? Oh yeah, and I'll also mention, I don't know if this is the case, but VIPs and mods, you do not need to enter to win. If you want stickers, just DM me. So honestly, Pablo, if I still have your info, I'll send you some more. Because you're a VIP, right? Yeah, you're a VIP. I'll send you more stickers. Come on, free. Yeah, I'll send you some, Pablo. All right, 1 minute left to enter, ! Enter. And anyone can win. Anyone can win. If you just got here and you're wondering what we're giving away, we have These shiny, shiny stickers. Actually, I'm gonna do a reveal of some new shiny stickers I printed for a thing that I'm doing. So I started back up the Denver script meetup here, and if you're watching, if you're in Denver, you should attend the meetup. You could meet me in person and also come watch some cool lightning talks. But check these out. Check these out. They are shiny Denver JS stickers. So if you the Denver Colorado flag looks like this, but I just put a JS in the sun because it's Denver script. Get it? Denver script. But I'm gonna be giving those out at the Denver script meetup. Fob, no, don't enter, Fob. I'm literally gonna send you some stickers along with everyone else. Uh, yeah, yeah. Okay. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it. Let's see who wins. You'll have a 1 in 29 chance of winning. May the odds be ever in your favor. Drum roll. And the winner is it Nafto? I think so. Yes, yes it is. Congrats to Nafto. I feel like you've been watching for a long time. Yeah, you followed in 2020. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Oh, and you subbed. You didn't have to. You did not have to do that, Nafto. I appreciate it. Yeah, look at you. You've got a founder badge. You've been here forever. Appreciate you. You'll get some stickers. Actually, let me do this right now. I'm going to DM you a link to a form where you can enter in your details, and I will mail you some stickers anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. So, yeah. NOFHTO? It's not showing your avatar. Let me know if you got that, because I don't know if this is actually you. I think I spelled it right. Okay, congrats. If you stick around, I'll give away some more stickers later after we've done some other things. Yeah, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. I'm from Mexico. Is that a problem? No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Come on, America 2050. Don't make jokes like that. But yeah, Mexico should be fine. You can look at USPS international mail restrictions. Yeah, so this page mentions countries that have events. Mexico isn't on this list, so we should be good. Should be good. And Default Gian, thank you for the prime. Very kind. Italy is on here? Yeah, but and this was in May too. Italy's post has advised that following severe flooding in those regions, it has been unable to guarantee collections and deliveries in certain parts of the region since May 17th. So, yeah. That I don't think you can send any mail to North Korea. Richardson. I don't think that's possible at all. And also, give me a second. I'm going to change this background because it seems a little bit hard to see. Nice, Nocto. Glad to hear it. How about this one? And Sej, you didn't. Thank you. You're too kind. Thank you for the 5 gifted. Appreciate you. All right. How's that? I think it's a little more legible. Yeah. Oh, hey, Taco Bandit. Yeah, USPS is the easiest way to send the stickers because I actually send them literally in an envelope, so I can just use regular stamps. We must support CJ. Thank you, Savage. Yeah, but welcome in, everyone. All right, let's get into it. The first thing we're going to do today is work on a React and Web Dev SkillTree. So this is basically just going to be a list of things that you should know before learning React or any other front-end framework like Svelte or Vue or Solid. But a lot of people are learning React, so that's what we're going to call it. And what's up, Josh? It's been a while. Welcome in. Glad to see you. Okay. Cool, Fob. I'll look into it because I'll make you a little US goodie bag like Doritos and some other stuff. Okay. Yeah, so we want to. I think I'm just going to use this code base because basically, if I create a custom JSON file, then we can visualize it like this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to bring this code down and then work on it locally, so that way like it auto refreshes while I'm working on the JSON file. But basically, I want to make a tree like this, but each of the nodes is going to have the name of some specific topic, like DOM manipulation or HTML tags, HTML attributes, those kinds of things. That's the plan. How do I download this? Isn't there a way to download this? I guess I can just copy paste. I'll just copy paste. Command A? Oh, you mean like copy it? Oh, here we go. Export. Export zip. That's what I'll do. All right, the code is mine now. We're gonna unzip it. And then remove that. Did not need remove the zip file. Yeah, old chat is dead, but I mean it's not dead. Some of the APIs got deprecated, so I need to rework it. But I also like the minimalist aspect of this. I think what I mentioned earlier is I will potentially add the badges and flags and teams, but keep the minimal look because I also like the minimal look. And I like the fact that the messages disappear after 30 seconds. That's cool as well. All right, we have code. There's a script, there's that. And so I think if I go into this source and I start light server, this should just do it. Or not. Yeah. Yeah. Why do I have the file explorer on the right side? Oh, it's just an option you can enable, but one of the things is if it's on the left side, every time you open and close it, the code shifts, right? But now that it's on the right side, it doesn't shift the code. It's just like on top of the code. So I like it. And I used to use Visual Studio, like the bigger version of Visual, not bigger version. Visual Studio is like a paid program that's typically used for like C# enterprise development. I used that a long time ago, and it actually defaults to the Explorer on the right-hand side. The original Visual Studio, yeah. Okay, why is this not working? Oh, it doesn't load them in, does it? It does. There's the script. There's the styles. Throw shade on Visual Studio. Was it? Okay. Let's just make sure this file is actually running. That file is not running. Okay. Am I in the right directory? I'm in d3.js src. Index.html doesn't load the script tag. Okay. Okay. Console.log is not a function. That makes sense because there's an iffy after that. That's what I want to see. Beautiful. Okay, so at this point, let me just customize the styles a little bit, and then we can start working on the JSON file. I want this background to be dark, like that. Beautiful. And then right now, the script is loading this JSON file. So I want to pull this JSON file down locally. It's an iffy, isn't it? Source graph.json. And now I'm going to fetch grapho.json. Yeah, so now it's pulling it locally. So if I modify it, it should it should update. Cool. So there's a single node, and keeping the B channel a bit higher. So RGB. So if I do like F, like 33F. No. Yeah, so let's we can fix that. We can fix that. So at this point, we're gonna be doing 334. Let's see. It's a little darker. Actually, I like it's nice and complimentary. What do I want to say? Here, we actually will be doing some D3 coding, which is fine. But let's think about this. So the parent node, I think, for this is going to be, let's just give it like a title of HTML, and we're going to create a bunch of prerequisites underneath this HTML subtree. I think. Yes, that is what we will do. But I want to take this title and put it onto the node. So in this script, we can look at this D3 code and do that. So there's a bunch of stuff happening, but somewhere it's setting the text of the node. And when we find that, we can change it to be, instead of ID, to be the title. So right here. So it's adding all of the nodes. For the text, D represents each of the nodes in that JSON file. And then, and then data is this thing. So right now it's d.data.id. We can do d.data. Or title, and then that should render the title right there. Cool. It's not in the center though. I think at this point we're dealing with SVG. So we have a group, we have a circle, and then we have text. So I think what I want to search for is center text in SVG group. Let's see how that's done. D3 can be used for a lot of things. Right now it's being used to generate SVG. Set the position of the text to the absolute center of the element. If it's parent, you could just do x equals 50%, y equals 50%. Let's try that. X 50%, y 50%. Not quite. Not quite. We'll figure it out though. Use the text anchor property to center the text horizontally within the value. So text, I think we already do it. It's doing that. So text anchor middle is centering it horizontally. So really, we only need to modify the y. I'm not doing hot, spicy stuff today. Um, and thank you, Soge King. And it was good to meet you in Amsterdam. Welcome in. Um, use the dominant baseline property to center the text vertically in the middle. I see. Did they do that? No, they did alignment baseline. We want the dominant baseline middle. Hey, it did it. And then right now, I'm curious what the font size is. Now I'm because I didn't know what the reference was before. I'm curious though, what happens if we have like a really long title? Like learn HTML please today. All right. What happens? I wonder if we can somehow fit the text. Yeah, so yeah, honestly, I think you're totally right. I shouldn't overthink this. I think one thing I can do is just set the font size smaller for now. I don't know, let's try like 20 pixels and then 10 pixels? Yeah. Or probably even smaller. So for now, and then later on, we'll work on the styles. But this is better because now we're actually rendering the title. Okay. Now, for my course React Roots, I do have a course out here. That's a quick plug for my course on learning React. There's a section that talks about what do you need to know before learning React. And this node here, build websites with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So, I mean, I guess I can also try to think about how are we going to structure this, because I think the main node here is build websites with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then off of that, you have like an HTML node that says like use HTML tags, that kind of thing. Actually, that's a lot. All right, so we have ID1. It's going to have a parent ID of HTML. So yeah, honestly, I kind of just want to do like HTML tags like this. And then we'll come up with something better. But for now, HTML tags, HTML attributes. Let me know in the chat. What are things about HTML you need to know before you can really even begin to start to learn about React? I think one thing I'll do is I'll just look up HTML and MDN to see what they have to say about it. Data properties. I think that would fall under like attributes. And I don't think you need to know data. And you're talking about like data set, right? Honestly, I think semantic HTML would be good to cover as well. It's happening. We're building out our graph. Oh yeah, so something like link external resources. Cool. Forms, yeah. So yeah, I do have semantic HTML. I'm not sure, where is it picking these colors from? Because sometimes they're really hard to see. Color map. Where's color map defined? DAG, I descendants, entries, color map, interpret the number of steps. Yeah. What's up, Sledge Dog? Oh no, it only broke recently. Twitch changed their API at the beginning of the month. that broke some things that the overlay was dependent on. Metadata, tags, and elements. Honestly, one thing I might do is, in order to make things just readable, like I like this. Let's pick. Of all the colors on the page, I like this purple. So I think I'm just gonna set everything to. Honestly, though, these these gradient edges are really cool. So this has to do with the links. We want the node background color. Yeah, so fill right now it's calling colormap.get. Instead, we can do fill with that, and then everything should just be the same. Yeah, like that. Everything will be purple now, so it's at least readable. All right, HTML tags, attributes, semantic HTML, linking external resources. I mean, honestly, let's just look at an HTML document and think about what are the things about this. Like, honestly, like HTML5, right? So this doc type thing. You need to know that? I don't know. Seems fine. Let's look at MDN, their document about HTML, and see if we can pick anything out that is also important to know. I think anatomy of an HTML element, I think that's actually a really good thing to say, but that's or have HTML tags. HTML element anatomy. So like knowing that there's an opening tag and a closing tag, knowing that there are attributes, that kind of thing. Oh, you mean in the text? We'll figure out in a second how we can get that text to wrap. Let's look at their HTML tutorial. Introduction to HTML, multimedia and embedding, tables, web forms. Special characters? I'm trying to think, like, what are the most basic things someone needs to know? It's like knowing about like HTML character sets and stuff, I think is important, but you actually don't need to know it to do React. You know? Hyperlinks. Yeah. I think that's, yeah, why not? So, when I said link external resources, this I'm referring to as like add a link to a style sheet or add a link to a script tag. Yeah, so that's really what I meant by link external resources. Maybe I'll just say link external JS, and then like a separate node is link external CSS. And then as a separate node is link to other pages, link between pages. Yeah, it's gonna be busy, but I think we'll figure out the best way to like organize it, right? Oh, did I mess something up? Duplicate ID. Oh, that makes sense. Ooh, 44444. How to serve HTML locally and publish to a server. Okay, these are things that I think would actually be under a different node, which would be like HTTP concepts. A good call, Josh. What I was just thinking of is putting GUIDs, GUIDs, so that way I don't have to like keep incrementing. I can just add a random one. But I like the way you think. Technically, I have light server. It's just not detecting changes to the JSON file. Yeah. So yeah, I think we need like a separate node for that, BB, which is just like the basics of HTTP and like how web browsers work, the request response cycle, that kind of thing. But yeah, let me prepend HTML. Well, then I'm gonna have to update all of my IDs though. Well, that should be fine. And then now everywhere I have 0 should be HTML-0. All right, still works. But now we can have a different parent node that is HTTP 0. Let's call it like web 0. So like how the web works. Um, yeah, now we have a separate HTTP node. Or no, we'll just call it, yeah, how the web works. And then there will be a subnode called HTTP that has a parent of that. Cool. So now we have like a little subgraph here. Web 3, oh no. But yeah, we want HTTP. Kind of want to do something like request response cycle. This kind of has to, that this is HTTP, but I'll make it a subgraph of HTTP. Yeah, let me look back at the chat because I think you all had some good stuff. Yeah, I'm trying to not be influenced by other roadmaps. I think we'll potentially go look at other skill trees and roadmaps after we do this, but I don't want this to be a complete ripoff of like there's a website. I won't even mention it because I want to get mine and then we'll go look and see if we missed anything. Uh, from why the web works is www. Not why, but not why. It is how the web works, not why the web works. Um, Yeah, how to serve HTML locally and publish to a server. So that is what I was thinking along the lines of how the web works. So like basically having a local HTTP server. Um, so yeah, honestly, maybe that's another node here. Is this is just a dependency of how the web works. Is local run a local HTTP server, and then another one is deploy static files to a CDN/HTTP server. Something like that. We're going to do text wrapping in a little bit. HTTP versus HTTPS. Yeah, let's make this a sub of HTTP. Cool. Eventually, we can add interactivity and like expand and collapse these nodes because right now it's really hard to see the HTML node because all of our other stuff. Honestly, I kind of want to do something like take all of this, put this in an object where web is a property, and then it has an array. And then there's HTML as a property. It has an array with all of that in it. Open curly brace, web, that. Then we need a comma, HTML, that. What's wrong with my syntax here? How do objects work? What is JSON? Um a graph version of MDN, which is totally fine. But the other thing that this does is it for a beginner or someone that's new, it gives them an outline that's in some semblance of order, right? Because closing curly brace. Oh, yeah, and then another opening curly. No. No, I just want this is a JSON object. It should be a top level array property. Expected comma or closing brace. JSON, well, not JSON, but like object access is going to be on the list when we start talking about JavaScript. All right. Right. So here is this is an object. It has a property called web. What's up, Matt? Are you saying that you're a ghost? I'm busy. So do I really have that? Because we have array, which is an object property, right? Comma, property, array. Oh, I see. I just need one more curly brace. That's all it was. Jeez. Oof. Okay, we got there. But now my code is going to be broken, but all I'm going to do is say do data.web for now, because that's the one that we're looking at. Cool. So this is a little bit easier to see. What I want to do now is I want to figure out how can I auto wrap text within a group. I almost want something like, yeah, SVG text wrap inside group. Wrapping text inside an SVG using CSS. What? You can break your stuff into T-span. Text auto layout? I don't know. Let me see if I missed any chat messages. Emit for HTML? I don't think it's like I don't use Emit, so I don't think it's necessary to know. I think we should label things as like stretch and then also like as need to know. Yeah. Hey Matt, welcome in. Does anybody know? How do I wrap text in an SVG? And hey, Limotes, welcome in. I mean, I could try /new lines, but I don't want to do it manually. What I think of introducing bundlers at the very beginning, I think your first websites should be built without any extra tools. And because that's kind of the beauty of the web is at its most basics, you don't need any tools. You can literally just write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you have yourself a website. I think these days Vite is zero config enough that you can actually introduce it pretty early on. Like even before React, like you can use Vite with vanilla JS and TypeScript. And also like you can learn about modules and stuff even before you use React, which I think helps with your understanding of React. Yeah, I don't want to break it apart myself. SVG text wrap. That's really all I want. Is it text anchor? Start, middle, end? Multi-line SVG text. Yeah, you have to do T-span. Are you saying we have to break it up ourselves? I think that's why some of the articles were saying use CSS. Oh, is word wrap built into D3? Oh, no, they built word wrap. Eh. For an object. And then a paragraph tag? D3 text node wrap text. Wrapping text in D3. It's really funny how it's kind of just not built in. Do I really have to write all this manual code? All right. That first Stack Overflow seemed promising. Was it this one? No, this one. Or was it this one? It was this one. Let's try it. So they have a word wrap function that takes in the text and then max. What is max? Max length is, where's this defined? Oh, 20. I see. Cool. So this appends text. Then we no longer set the text. We now say for each one of them, call word wrap with node.data.title. That's going to give us an array of lines. And then we're going to append a T-span for each one. But there are several variables that we need. We need V separation, max length, and text X. Is that going to work? See what this gives us. Yeah, let's see. Can't create property, create element in is undefined. Where? Line 93. Oh, this. That's why. Um. Okay, that's fine. We'll make it a function. Okay. Let's see how many T-spans it actually created. Um, and that means the max length is too big. We'll half it. Run a local HTTP server. Great. Um, bind? Oh, bind it to yeah. Well, you can't bind an arrow function, but I think instead of this, I think actually we could have just used D, and then let's see if this still works. No, that's not it. So yeah, you still need this somehow. Um. Okay, at this point, we've split it into multiple T-spans, which I'm pretty happy with. Deploy static files to a CDN/HTTP server. Great. But now, how do we get those T-spans to like all be on a new line? What if we add text nodes with all the same properties? No, now it's a text inside text. Um, SVG T-span center align in text. Because right now, if they just were on each on a new line, that would be great. Oh, I see. dy would be how far they're separated in the y. Oh, look at that. But now, I potentially not want to set any of these. This is fascinating. Run a local HTTP server. I wonder if it's automatically setting a DX. So we potentially just want the DX to be 0. I mean, before. What if we try that? Oh, we're getting there. Okay. Um, is it like negative height of the thing? Can also increase the max length a little bit. We're really close. The only thing is it's not in the center vertically. Okay, text anchor middle, good. I want to start them at the top. What are the possible values for text anchor? What's up, Lester? Welcome in. Start, middle, end. Start? Not quite. It's like they're still in the center is the thing. Text anchor is horizontal only. Okay. SVG dominant baseline. What are our options for that? Hanging? So this is how far apart each of the T-spans are. So that seems fine. I mean, we could just set the Y. We don't want to set the Y because then they're all on top of each other. I thought dy was like how far apart each of them are. Because if I set dy to 0, they're all on top of each other. Yeah, text anchor middle is horizontal centering, which is good. We just don't have vertical. Yeah. What's up, Citrix? We're working with D3 and SVG right now. We just want these text anchors to be, or these text T-spans to be inside of the node itself. Text top, maybe? No. Alignment baseline. Let's try it. Like if I do dy -8. Oh. Oh. Okay, if I do -8 and then we set our y a little bit lower. Y. I guess I don't want to set the y. Yeah. Y on the container, like the text. Oh! Oh, I think we've done it. Feels very manual. The thing is, Yeah, I mean, like negative 50% seems right? No. I mean, this isn't horrible. Like this is better. Like at least they're inside the nodes now. But it would be really nice if it was in the center. I think, yeah, I think I would actually have to calculate it. So based on the number of texts, we subtract that, because if I don't set that, oh, oh, I don't know. Well, we tried percentages, but use text anchor on the text element and use percentage points if the text elements are wrapped together with the circles. So yeah, we have text anchor on the text element, which in text anchor right now is the thing that's centering it. So that's working perfectly fine. So that centers it there. Apparently, yeah, alignment baseline isn't doing anything. And then the Y, I guess, needs to be relative to how many things there are. Um, like here we could say something like X node is that. And then afterwards we can say set its attribute Y to be some calculated value based on the number of lines. So like lines.length times 2, -2. That's not horrible. That's closer, because now it's like it's relative. And then we can decrease the max line length. Yeah, why not? That seems fine. That seems fine. And if we look at our other one, which is the HTML tree, let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's not horrible. Cool. We'll have to work on that later on as well. But all right. Good, yeah, it's good enough. Good enough. Now, in the chat, help me out. We need more nodes on here. So you're a beginner. You're learning HTML. Or actually, at this point, we're working on the how the web works tree. So you are learning the basics of web development. What do you need to know? Right now, we know we have you have the basics of HTTP. I think run a local HTTP server is probably a sub of HTTP. So I'm going to do that. What is a host? DNS, SSL, TLS. Yeah, so I've got you. I've got you. We need a new node. Called parts of a URL. And under that, we've got protocol, host. I mean, do I need to write these out? I think just parts of a URL is fine because then it'll have some details that talk about talk about all of that. Yeah, so here we have the request response cycle, which talks about what was the message I was just looking at? Client versus server. Yeah, so request response cycle involves client server. We could make client server a parent of that. So under HTTP, we have another node. Client server model. And then request response cycle has a parent of that. Yeah. Cool. So I saw some other things like cores, caching, URI versus URL. I don't know how, like, don't get me wrong, it's good to know those things, but to go from writing HTML and knowing about HTTP to writing React, do you have to know about like cores and cache? Maybe. I think maybe I do want to put cores in here somewhere. That probably would be a child of the client server model as well. Cores. Yeah. Cookies? Maybe. I think yeah, under request response cycle, I would want to have some sub stuff about headers. We're talking pretty basic. I think like we can put, honestly, it's probably better to put more and then remove if we think it's too much, or figure out a way to mark things as like stretch or optional. But this would be, the parent is Web 2, request response cycle. And yeah, HTTP headers. Like that. Data seeding. Not sure what you mean, Snow Mountain. Right now, we're focusing on what a beginner needs to know about the web in order to be a competent junior web developer. Yeah, okay, so I think that's good as well. So not only HTTP headers, we also want HTTP methods. Great. Authentication. That could potentially be covered via headers. Yeah, status codes go under here as well. It's cool to make a graph like this, though. So honestly, I think we should have a subgraph called data types, because XML, JSON, those are good to know. Are there other data types? Yeah, XML. Well, so how to search Stack Overflow? We could have a completely separate tree on learning how to learn or like getting help. But right now we're focused on how the web works. CVS receive CSV. Yeah. So yeah. So I do like the idea of like data formats, but I think that's a separate subtree. formed, and really we're ultimately talking about like data encodings, because I think that's one of the first things I think you learn as a programmer, that like where you start to see the world a little bit differently. Like the idea of structured data, the idea of taking things you know about the world and then trying to turn it, or in converting it into a format that's like understandable by a computer. Yeah. So yeah, like other methods like polling or WebSockets, I actually don't even think those are for a beginner. I don't think so. Um, yeah, and even like REST versus SOAP. Now, don't get me wrong; those things are important, right? I think like you eventually need to know those, but like if you're a complete beginner and you wanna take the shortest path from knowing nothing to learning React and building websites with React, what's going to be required there? I mean, you could also argue that like you don't have to know about cores to work with React, but it's going to help because often if you're building a front end site, you're going to be talking to APIs, so you need to know about cores. Yeah, but I think that's yeah, I think you're right about that though. So like if we're going to talk about cores, we potentially want to talk about data and APIs. Honestly, let's put that as a sub node, data and APIs, and from there we can talk about data formats, types of servers. Yeah. HTTP versus HTTPS is not needed anymore today. Yeah, that's why honestly that's why I have it as a sub node of HTTP. It's like it's weird to think about. Like if you're teaching if you're teaching this stuff to beginners, everything's HTTPS these days. Like we used to have the conversation that, oh well, things are slowly moving to HTTPS. There's things like Let's Encrypt, um, but these days everything is HTTPS. But to use HTTPS, you don't really have to know. You don't have to know how it works. Um, it just works. Yeah. So like, yeah, network tab. I think you potentially would. Um, we would talk about that in the request response cycle. So how about this? Debug network requests with the dev tools. Mm, inspect requests. I'm just trying to fit it within the node. um, Now it's TLS versus MTLS. See, I don't even know what MTLS is, and I would argue that like front end web devs don't really even have to know either. Like we're not necessarily like configuring or deploying these services. We're just using it. It just happens. Assets and file types. Yeah, I think so. I think if we have a node on APIs or quick stretch. Files and data types. Right? Oh, not that. This. Okay, so now, yeah. Honestly, parts of a URL, kind of like the prerequisite, I guess, is HTTP because that's a protocol. But with this right side of the tree definitely needs some expanding. What message did I just see that had to do with files and data types? Yeah, assets and file types. So I think a subtree or a subnode here um, is like web assets. So these are things like JS, CSS, HTML, that kind of thing. Um, And then we have another node, which is data formats. And then under data formats, we can talk about JSON. And we can also talk about XML. And we can also talk about CSV. Cool. So I'm not planning a course. I am. I don't think we would even get into HT access files. It's like right now we are building out a skill tree that shows in kind of like dependency order what you need to know to be a web developer, and really, what are the minimum amounts of things you need to know to get to building apps with React with a good base of understanding. Would they need to know CSV? I don't think so. You're totally right. And honestly, they probably don't even need to know XML, but they might encounter it. So I think it'd be worth talking about. Yeah, and I think to that point, I don't think we even need. I don't think we need robust.txt. So yeah, we're going to talk about DOM, but that's going to be a completely different subtree. So right now, this is the subtree how the web works. We have another subtree for HTML alone, which we haven't really filled out yet. And then DOM manipulation would be under the JavaScript subtree, and DOM manipulation would have a prerequisite of pretty much the entire HTML parent tree, because you can't really do DOM manipulation without understanding how HTML works. Y'all get what I'm getting at? But one step at a time. One step at a time. Yeah, and then does it make sense to mention YAML? Well, I like this good acre, Liam, and honestly, let's just take some notes, because we've had some good stuff here that I haven't written down yet. So one thing that was mentioned earlier is like learning how to learn. So like, how do you get help on the internet? Because somebody mentioned like how to use Stack Overflow. And some coding guy. Thank you for the raid. Welcome in, raiders. We are in the process of building out a skill tree, and this skill tree right now is on how the web works, and in a second we're going to start talking about the HTML subtree, and then also we're talking about like a meta subtree, like learning how to learn. But somebody also just mentioned like working in a team, like collaboration. Because, I mean, honestly, these things aren't required to learn how to use React. These things are just good for being a developer. And eventually, like, if you're trying to learn React, you want to be a developer that gets a job at a company. So, like, learning how to use Git, learning how to use some project management tool. Those are all things. Basing on Cod Academy Street, no, we are starting from scratch. I mean, I'm getting input from the chat, but I'm not looking at anything else, because I want to do my best to come up with this based on like input I get from the chat, and like how I think about like what beginners should know and learn. But after we do this, we're gonna look at Khan Academy. There's also like roadmap.sh. There's a bunch of stuff, people that have done similar things before. Did I miss anything? Let's see. More for the UI and presentation? Oh no, so this is just a D3, a little SVG visualizer we pulled off of CodePen. And right now we just have subtrees. Yeah. So yeah, like preloading and like lazy loading and stuff like that. I think that would probably be under the HTML subtree. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, we're gonna get to this other stuff later, but let's just stare at the web tree one more time and try to think: is there anything else that should be added here? Actually, I mean, is this even legible or is it too small? um, it could be both. Yeah, well, I think that's the thing is like um, learning about the preload attribute or like the lazy load attribute. Probably a like soft prerequisite would be something like the request response cycle, right? Because I mean, but you don't need to know the request response cycle to use those kinds of attributes in HTML. But technically, if you want to understand how they work under the hood, then you would need to know that. When we get to hosting, we should cover CDN as well as dedicated cloud VPS. Yeah, I mean that I think that is just like its own subtree of like deployment in DevOps. We have this node, deploy static files to a CDN/HTTP server. Um, we don't want to overcomplicate it. Ajax is going to be under the JavaScript tree. This tree is just how does the web work alone. Um, yeah. Cookies. That would be covered under HTTP headers, I think, over here. Query params would be covered under, um, where is it? Parts of a URL. Honestly, okay, I think parts of a URL should be like HTTP should be the parent. Let's see. Um, and then deploying static files to a CDN or HTTP server, that should probably be a subtree of running a local HTTP server. Because, like, you probably wouldn't deploy until you've already done it locally. If that makes sense. Um, sweet. Let's do this. Cool. Oh yeah, it absolutely is Owose? Orose? But it helps, and I'm gonna go back and scroll through the chat to make sure I didn't miss anything. But also, there are so many people from so many different backgrounds in the chat right now. Like, so Frankie 2 is saying TCP, UDP, failure tolerance, bidirectional communication. That's great, but I don't think a beginner needs to know about these things. Like, because the thing is, you could literally just be an expert in HTTP and networking, right? But to be a junior front end web developer, you don't have to know all of that. However, eventually, I want to get to a point where we can take things like that and figure out where they fit on this tree, and then kind of just mark them as like advanced or optional. Uh, because I think that's the other thing about learning to code or like being a developer is sometimes you don't know where you should go next. So like let's say you've mastered this entire tree, like you know everything about the basics of how the web works in HTTP. There's still more, right? There's still more protocols. There's still more complex things you could get into. Yeah, character sets. I don't know. I saw something. Yeah, let me look through. Um, Debugging, promises, exceptions, accessibility. I think debugging is going to be on its own subtree of like learning how to learn. And we'll figure out a better name for it. Promises will be under JavaScript. Exceptions under JavaScript. Accessibility honestly needs its own subtree. Yeah. The most basic should be HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's true, but when you're working with React, especially clients, just completely client React, like we're not even talking about like Next.js at this point, you're typically integrating with APIs, because if you're not integrating with APIs, then your apps really don't do much, right? They're just completely front end. So that's why I do think these parts are important, because you're going to be building React apps that make API requests. And in order to do that, you should have a good understanding. The thing is, you can do it without a good understanding. People do it all the time, really, because I mean, it's literally as simple as fetch, you know, like this is it. You can fetch APIs, but to really understand what's happening there, I think is fairly important. Like, so understanding the request response cycle and stuff like that. Yeah. No, exactly. But the end goal is building sites with front end frameworks like React. And a lot of people like sometimes will just jump right into React. So I'm trying to give them a smooth onboarding to it. How to not get your API key revoked. Yeah, but like stuff like this, I think it's good to know, but not for this specific tree. Yeah. So I plan to explain all of this. Not explain it. I mean, I'm explaining it as I go, kind of just talking about the order of and dependencies of all these things. Local storage versus session storage. I think this would be under the JavaScript subtree. I do like the idea of a protocols, but the thing is, these days you really only need the HTTP protocol. Like we don't. I mean, you can know FTP, but we don't really do FTP anymore. You could know UDP versus TCP, but at the end of the day, for basic web dev, you don't really need that. Yeah. So like I'm tempted to have a protocols parent, but then that would have subtrees. But because HTTP is the only one, and yeah, because then yeah, so you would also have WebSockets. You could also have like those things. So yeah, I like the idea of tools. Let's make a complete subtree for tools, and talk about like HTTP request tools, the network dev tools, and honestly, like we have this node about inspect requests with the dev tools. It kind of needs to be like a child of that. But let's make another node. Tools. We'll just call it tools. And then HTTP in HTTP request tools. Yeah, tools. HTTP request tools. You also want network inspecting tools. Right? This node down here now kind of becomes redundant. Inspect requests with the dev tools. Tools to deploy. I would say at this point, maybe. So what's tricky is this potentially has a prerequisite of CLI, and we probably want another parent tree called CLI, like command line tools, in like the Linux command line. All right, I'm gonna remove this inspect request one because that's kind of covered over here. Okay. Didn't we run out of the 1 hour slot? I guess at this point we did, but we're gonna keep going. Some more ideas. Managing dependencies and tooling. I think that's definitely going to be a prerequisite for React, but I think that has more to do with like I guess project structure. Um, yeah, managing dependencies, and then like tooling around yeah, so not only tooling for managing dependent, but really we're talking about like web bundlers and stuff like that, but that's going to be under a different subtree. Um, yeah, tools, editors, and extensions as well. I think specifically for how the web works, um, HTTP requests, network inspecting. So HTTP request tools would be things like Postman, Insomnia, curl. Network inspecting tools would be things like the network tab in web browser dev tools, but also things like Wireshark potentially, or Charles proxy. And then deployment tools would be like how do you deploy a site, but those would be like CLI tools. Chat GPT, yeah. um, yeah. Oh, the tool to create the tree is just code. I will. I forked a code pin and we just modified it. It's this one. Um, this one? Yeah, yeah. So I took this code, which was visualizing a DAG or directive acyclic graph. And Nikki Poo, thank you for the prime. I appreciate you. And we modified it so that it actually shows text now. Um, and we can load in different subgraphs. Yeah. But it's using under the hood, it's using D3 and then a thing called D3 DAG, which automatically lays things out so that the nodes aren't like overlapping with each other. Create a repo and commit before changes. Yeah, we will do that. Somebody mentioned security. I think it's lower. It's lower down here. Yeah. So Zyrus mentioned security. I think it is important to know like the basics of web security. Like you should probably when you're learning about this stuff, you probably should learn about common vulnerabilities. So like cross-site request forgery, um, cross-site scripting. So yeah, let's just make an entire node called security. And then we'll have a node called yeah, I think I like OWASP top 10 because that covers cross-site request forgery and XSS. Um, but we'll put that we'll put those as subnodes. Um, move HTTP versus HTTPS under security. Yeah, I guess the thing is like learning about the HTTP request. I mean, I realize you can't even read these nodes anymore. The text is too small. But learning about HTTP, you learn about the request response cycle, and you potentially learn that if it's in clear text and like the way data is being sent over the web, um, anyone can look at that text without if you don't have HTTPS, TLS. What I want to know about XSS and CSRP before I write my first React app. You should know about XSS, I think. Um, yes, I do think so. I think so. And because it's not it's not it's not too hard to understand that if you are working with unsanitized user input, bad things can happen. And I think it's good to learn that early on. Um, yeah, honestly, I think that's a good point, Sergio. I think that would actually go under tools. Um, like API documentation tools. Exactly, like being able to navigate a Swagger doc, I think is a good thing to have on here. Did it cut off the letter D? It's getting way too... honestly, I need to implement Zoom now. I want to have a completely different, a separate subtree for accessibility. This list is only how the web works. This has nothing to do with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, accessibility, learning how to learn, working on a team. None of that. We have not touched any of that yet. This is only how the web works. HTTP, file types, that kind of thing. And then really, I think like reading documentation is kind of here on learning how to learn. Right? Something like that. Okay, I want to do a subnode of OWASP top 10, which is cross-site scripting. Let's see. A tier list? Oh. I mean, honestly, if I wanted to market this to Gen Z, I think a tier list would do it. Really, my end goal is, first of all, these nodes need to be collapsible, right? So literally as you start to navigate this whole thing starts off as a single node that says how the web works, right? And then you're like, all right, I want to learn how the web works. You click on it, and now you see 4 nodes. You see HTTP, files and data types, tools, and security. And you decide, all right, what am I going to learn about next? And then you kind of like navigate the tree from there. So yeah, right now it's not ideal because and I think this is the other thing about a lot of skill trees and roadmaps. It's overwhelming, right? If you're a beginner and you see this, you're like, oh my goodness, I have so much to learn. But if we can present it to learners in a way that's like more consumable and like one piece at a time, and also kind of like guide them to say like, oh, you just learned about the basics of HTTP. You should probably learn about parts of a URL next or something like that. Yeah, okay, I missed some other things. Cloud computing, serverless. I mean, I think all of those things could be their own subtree around like DevOps and deployment, but they're not necessarily required for being like a front end dev or learning React. Yeah, I think eventually it'll be a website. That's the other thing is these nodes are going to have information on them, right? You click on it, and then boom, you get a video pop up that's me explaining the topic, or you have links out to MDN articles or something like that. Yeah, I'm contemplating whether we should add YAML, just because I feel like the only time I had to touch YAML was like when I was dealing with Docker Compose, and beginners don't typically do that. This graph is a great way to show the boss. This is why I need a raise. See all this stuff I have to know just for building simple websites? Yeah. It can be used for ESLint and stuff. I'm not opposed to it. I think one of the aspects of like teaching about these data formats early on, as well as like, hey, you don't have to know everything. Like you don't have to read the entire YAML specification, but this is something you might come across. And maybe you're working on something and you need to pick a data format. Maybe you'll choose YAML. Okay, I've been convinced. There we go. YAML is on the list. Global SSL and stuff would be cryptography. Yeah, but you don't really need to know cryptography. What's up, Mommy Alex? Welcome in. Explain IPs and DNS. I don't think so. Not in this tree. And what's up, Pranjal? Welcome in as well. Okay. I think this is pretty good. I think it's pretty good. I can obviously I'm going to iterate on it, but this is pretty good. What I want to do next is I want to add zooming. I want to be able to zoom with the mouse wheel. And then we're going to work on a different subtree because we also honestly I think I just want to do the HTML subtree because that's like the basics. This one, um, we want to expand this out a little bit more. Maybe add some nodes under these nodes. Eventually, we'll add collapsibility. I don't think we need that today. I think at least being able to zoom in and out is what we mainly need. So yeah, D3, SVG, pan, and zoom. How do we do that? Um, there's a D3 zoom package. Well, yeah. So honestly, I need a node. That's a good one, Nix. I need a node for web browsers. Um, that's at the same level. That's at the top level, right under how the web works. You're completely right. Oh no, this is HTML. And then there will be a subnode on like uh, browser features and compatibility. That's a big tree. That's a big old tree. Um, yeah, and what's up, Juesto? I'm making basically a dependency tree of things that you should know and learn to be a web developer. Essentially, the end goal is that you can take someone that says, "Hey, I want to learn React," that and someone that doesn't know how to program at all, and you can point them at this and say, "Hey, you need to learn about how the web works first, um, and then you need to learn about HTML, CSS, and the basics of JavaScript, and then you'll be ready for React." Um, yeah. Well, you get reactivity for free. That would make collapsible. I don't know America 2050. Okay, I want to implement Zoom really quick. Frankie2, thank you for the prime. Appreciate you. Yeah, sort of fun planet. I think ultimately, after we get all of this written down and all this on all this figured out, we can also do our best to streamline it, right? To say like, hey, you don't have to know about cores to learn React, but if you're going to be calling APIs inside your React app, you probably should know about cores. That kind of thing. And also, like, you don't have to know about cross-site scripting to learn React, but if you're gonna try to use dangerously set inner HTML, you should know the implications of that. That kind of thing. Um, keep getting distracted. I want to add pan and zoom, and then honestly, I might do something a little bit more entertaining for a little bit because I feel like this can get um, uh, what's the word? Boring. Boring. All right. I'm gonna add D3 zoom here. Tedious, yeah, tedious. But the thing is, like, I actually really love getting the suggestions from the chat because I think it's also like I think if you're a beginner and you're watching me read the chat messages and be like, I don't think that's as important. I think like you're seeing my thought process as an educator and as someone that's trying to like scaffold this stuff because it's actually really hard to think about all of this stuff from a beginner perspective. I think I'm pretty good at that, but it's really hard to do. Um, for legacy environments, D3 drag, D3 zoom. Maybe I need both of these. And then I can do this. So in my codes, I will have a zoom function. Nothing broke so far, so that's good. Um, yeah, and that's awesome, Josh, that you're working on a book. So currently writing a textbook for basic Python and SQL, and I'm constantly revising to add the parts I assume knowledge on the first run through. Yeah, it's really tricky. I mean, this is one of the things I was up against when I was trying to design a full stack course or like a basics full stack course. Like I kept getting hung up on, well, if you need to know this, then you got to need to know this too, and then like it was just like exploding with prerequisites. I think at a certain point you have to draw the line. You have to say like you should know this before this course or before reading this book. But yeah, and what's up, Ryan Weed? Welcome in. Um, show me how to do it. Selection.on zoom zoomed. I just do this. Draw the edges, plot the edges, select the nodes, plot the nodes, add text to nodes. This needs to happen on the parent. Yeah, the SVG selection here. Okay. Zoomed is not defined. Where does zoomed come from? Is it this? Is it this? It's zooming, but what do I do? These docs are kind of bad. Give me an example. Please give me an example. D3 zoom examples. Um, smooth zooming. I don't want that. I want mouse drag and zoom. Yeah, there's drag. There's zoom. Great. How'd they do it? Um, this. Yeah, so we got width, we got height. Okay, but what is zoomed? This. Drag start, drag end. We need these two. And then where is drag start and drag end added? So D3 drag, we call it um I think we do it on the SVG selection as well. Yeah, I agree. Nice. G is not defined. Trying to figure out, does it okay. Append G. So like this is the group. And then we do all this stuff on the group. But now that we have access to the group, and Shah, thank you for the sub. Now that we have access to the group, we do these things on the group, maybe? All this stuff here. It's not happening. Was that another support? Yeah, Asasan, thank you for the sub. Appreciate that. Yeah, I agree. It's always nice to learn something new. Did I stop doing back-end related streams? No. I mean, I guess I haven't done. Well, I mean, this felt kit streams are back-end related. So every Friday I'll be doing that. Um, that's it. Oh, is that true? SVG is not defined. D3.event is not defined. This might be an older version of D3. Why? Why? This is so hard. Oh, and actually, I think this is what we wanted, right? Zoom, on Zoom, zoomed? Oh, I see. That's where the G is not defined. This just needs to be SVG selection. That was the issue. I was doing the wrong thing. This should work now. Yeah. Okay. The just do the zoom, then do the drag. I mean, honestly, I'm curious why that worked. We did it on the group. Great. I mean, this is really cumbersome. Like it doesn't drag as much as I want it to. Reapply. Yes, that should be easy enough. Um, on drag. I don't think we need to do the D3 select. We can just do this. Drag start. Raise. Yeah, so I think the CX, we potentially want to give this a multiplier so that it moves more. Or not quite doing it. Also, drag start and drag end are not setting the cursor. So do I really even need either of those? I'm gonna get rid of it. Hmm. Whoa. All of a sudden, the dragging multiplier really messed with it. Maybe drag has a multiplier of the current zoom. Let's see. Yeah, so can we somehow extract out the scale and then use that as a multiplier for dragging? Do I even want to worry about that? Like, drag scale is 1? Or no, zoom scale. Starts off as 1. And then here, transform, I want to grab followed by transform. Wait, no. Scale. And then this value will be the scale value. Like that. Transform.match is not a function. What is transform? I thought transform would just be a string. Ooh, it's an object. I see. Um, is the k value? Oh, that's all we need then. We just need the k value. Mm, it doesn't matter. See you later, Origin. Or hello. I don't know if that's a hello or a goodbye. This is fine. I don't know why I spent so much time on that. Okay. Um, yeah, this is totally fine. At this point, we might work on something else. Actually, at this point, I'm going to give away some stickers for everybody that's been hanging around so far, and that sat there while I um, uh, did that. Here we go. If Pond Garden, you're too kind. Thank you for the bits. If you would like to win these shiny stickers, in the chat, type exclamation mark enter, and you'll be entered to win. I'm gonna mail them out this weekend. I'll ship it anywhere in the world, and you can win now. You can win now. Yeah, I do like these prismatic TypeScript ones, but also the JavaScript one is like a metallic thing that looks gold. Looks gold. Yeah. D3.select. D3.select. What does that do, Mr. Extremely? I'll have to look at it. You will have One more minute to two more minutes to enter to win. Nice Razor one. Yeah. How to remove the drag event? Why would I? What? I don't. I don't think I want to do this. I was more so worried about, or what I was trying to fix was like I want the drag event, but like right now, like it barely moves. Like I have to literally do this to even get it to move. So I just wanted that to be a bit more scaled or responsive. Is dragging a function? If so, add a multiplier to the distance. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Um, so it's setting the node X to be the event X. And so I added the multiplier there, but that just got out of hand really quick. It would like fly off. All right, 20 seconds left, exclamation mark, enter to win these shiny JavaScript stickers. Point two? Oh, like reduce it? Oh, that was loud. All right. May the odds be ever in your favor. Here we go. You have a 1 in 25 chance of winning. And the winner is. Starts with a C. Is it Crazy Wheelie? I think it is. Yeah. Congrats. Cool. I'm gonna whisper on Twitch really quick a link to a form. Fill that form out. I'll send your stickers this weekend. Ooh. Is there scaling? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But if I have a feeling if I do a multiplier like this, it'll be even worse, right? I mean, kind of seems better. I don't know. No worries, Citrix. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. Um, all right. Do I want to work on any of these other things, or do I just want to keep working on these skill trees? I've got probably like another hour and a half in me. I'll let you all vote on it. What do you want to see? Yeah, and see you later, Ryan Wade. Thank you for hanging out. Pretty sure I don't need to even specify Yes. Oh, you're totally right. Right? And see you later, Lester Wolf. Is this for a course? No, but I think it's honestly for self-learning, right? So any person that wants to learn web dev or learn to program could use this skill tree. But the other thing is like eventually I can start to create content for the skill tree, right? So if someone wants to learn these things, they can watch my course on teaching about the various aspects of this skill tree. All right, what should we do? Yeah, I completely removed dragging. I mean, it's still not ideal because I feel like I have to go like a really long way just to move it. But it's all right. Not horrible. All right, what are we gonna do? Async JS tips, I guess. things to know about it. Tips for live coding or streaming live coding. This will be like if you want to write code on Twitch or you want to present code, I will give you my tips on, or I think are tips for being a good live coder. React is choices. This is a potential talk, but I would basically just create like a list of reasons why when you choose React, you're also making 100 other choices. So yeah. Vote now. What do you want to see me do? Or the other thing is we would work on the HTML and JS skill tree. All right, 2 minutes. Vote now. And I'll be right back. But vote while I'm away. surprising. Let's do it. So the winner was, and George wants to see City Guesser. The winner was HTML and JS SkillTree by a few votes. So people want to see me keep working on the SkillTree. We'll do it. I won't say no. How to debug OOM in JavaScript. What is OOM? Or do you mean OOP? The letter M is really far from the letter P on the keyboard, so maybe it's not OOP? Out of memory. So in like backend JavaScript or where? But let's keep working. So if you're just joining us, we have been working on this skill tree on how the web works. So we're basically saying if you want to learn web dev, one of the first things you should learn is how the web works. And so Jest would be running through Node. You can potentially increase the amount of memory that it's allowed to use, but I believe like the Node.js thing is limited to a certain amount of memory. So yeah, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to debug that. But we talked about HTTP, all the concepts involved with HTTP, files and data types, tooling, security, web browsers, all this stuff. And we'll probably expand on this. And this is like fairly high level, but I think this is a good start for how the web works. But that's just one piece. Another piece of learning web dev is learning HTML. So let's look at the HTML tree that we've been building out. Right now, we just have HTML element anatomy. I'm starting to rethink this, and I think a lot of things should actually be a subtree of HTML element anatomy. Like if you don't know like what a tag is or what attributes are, you probably won't be able to do some of these other things. So that's kind of a prerequisite. Honestly, I don't even know if that should be a node. Maybe it should just. And Bob, it's been a while. Thank you for the prime. Welcome in. Maybe it should just be HTML tags. Like you should know what all the what some of the most common HTML tags are, like link and paragraph and div and section and stuff like that. Yeah, attributes, semantic HTML, linking. We'll put these as a subtree of link external resources. Like that. Linking between pages, handling forms. What else should people know about HTML when you're just starting out? If I were to just look at the DOM. Yeah, see you later, Josh. Appreciate you. Well, CSS is its own topic, which we'll talk about, which we'll add. It will have its own tree. Search engine optimization. I don't think you need to know that, especially like if you're building with front-end React. Yeah, but you probably should know about meta tags. So maybe we'll just have like a completely separate node for meta tags. Yeah. Let's go back over to MDN and see if we can get any inspiration about HTML. Honestly, we could probably just keep moving because JavaScript is literally going to take us an hour to just get the basics out there. How do you mix HTML tags with HTML attributes? Because attributes vary depending on the tag. Yeah, I think basically the reason I just have them written out here is like knowing what they are and how to use them, and then also how to look them up. So, given some tag, be able to look up what are the possible attributes that you can use on it. I think I'm going to skip events here because I want to cover those in DOM or like the document object model for JavaScript. Didn't we have like a whole section on like learning HTML? Yeah. Multimedia and embedding. Somebody mentioned this earlier. I don't think I put it anywhere. I like that, Belk. That seems like it'll look better too. It'll look better on the thing. So HTML elements, and then HTML tags has a parent of HTML elements, and attributes has a parent of that. Nice. Yeah. And then actually, I think semantic HTML might be a subtree of HTML elements. I want to have an entire tree for accessibility, because it's not accessibility isn't just. I guess I mean it's a lot of HTML accessibility is, but all right. Somebody mentioned, what did they mention? Oh yeah, like preloading and like lazy loading. So maybe we just put it under a thing called like optimization. And then there's going to be a sub node called preload. And then lazy loading. Yeah, defer. Isn't there another one? There's like async as well. Something like that. Structure. Yeah, I think you have a whole section on multimedia and embedding because you have things like the image tag and the video tag and the audio tag and then all that other stuff. Cool. Web literacy basics. Fascinating. Yeah, I think some of these could be moved under HTML elements. Honestly, a lot of these could be like semantic HTML, link between pages, HTML forms, meta tags. Um, yeah. So DOM is going to have its own subtree that's actually separate from JavaScript. Well, so what I mean, and maybe you haven't seen this before. What I mean by lazy loading is actually built into HTML. So you can have an image, um, like this, and then you could have like something that takes up a bunch of space on the page. Um, Actually, this should already do it. Yeah. So right now that image is not visible on the page; it's down below. But because I added the link, the browser has actually already downloaded it. And so if I scroll, it's there. But if you say loading equals lazy, this is just built in now. And it won't load the thing unless it's in view. So now I scroll down and then it makes the request for the thing. If I did that right. Let's try again. Probably did it wrong. Oh, is it loading equals lazy? It's possible that because the SVG didn't load yet, it was actually visible on the page. Yeah, so we need to push it way down. If we have something like this, that way when the page first loads, it's actually like not visible at all. And then now, once I scroll down, it makes the request for it. Yeah, so that's really all I'm talking about. Like no JavaScript needed here. Just knowing that those kinds of attributes exist, and then like optimizing the loading of stuff within your HTML. Cool. Lists, hyperlinks, embedding content, forms. I mean, I kind of want to put all that. I don't even know it's HTML5. It's probably newer than that. All right. Semantic HTML should be a subtree of HTML tags. Great. HTML forms should be a subtree of HTML tags as well. I messed that up. Meta tags should be a subtree of HTML tags. Link between pages. I'm just going to remove. Cool. I think we're good on HTML. Let's move on to JavaScript, which is going to be very daunting. There's a lot to include in JavaScript. Okay. New subtree, JS. Let versus var versus const. Um, let's start more basic, right? So first up, you have like data types. Is data types one word? Data types. Then, as a subtree of data types, something like primitive versus reference. So let's focus on data types and then like try to expand from there. So if you travel in your mind to the root of your knowledge about how JavaScript works and you think about data types. So this is like the basics of programming in JavaScript, right? You've got integers, booleans, strings. That's about it. And then you also have like arrays and objects. So understanding the difference between primitive and reference types, I think is important. Yeah, so all of those things, and I'm not going to list them out, but like basically, though understanding those are going to be the success criteria under the data types one, and the differentiating between primitive and reference would be under that. Um, and then I would also say that like variables or like defining variables, in order to even define variables, you need to know what the data types are. So that's also a prerequisite of that. And then um, once you can define variables, or I guess say something like variable assignment. Cool. Uh, that's I think that's okay for now. Maybe we'll come back to it. But the other thing to think about if you're thinking about the complete basics are um, expressions, right? Let's look at this beautiful little tree we have so far. So expressions are the idea that you can have like statements of code that resolve to some simpler thing. So yeah, so var versus let versus const. I think all of that would be under. I think yeah. So somebody mentioned that earlier. I'll give credit to who did it first. Yeah, Julian said let versus var versus const. That can be a subtree of variable assignment. So right here, this will be let var const. That. Um, and okay. The thing is, saying let versus var versus const means we're actually going to start talking about more than just variable assignment, right? At that point, we start to get to like scope. So I think you should know. Do you? It's kind of like a which comes first, but I think another node we need on here, which is a sub of variable assignment, is scope. Functions and arrow functions. Yeah, I think functions are going to be another top level node. Functions. And then we can start expanding on functions. And really, like scope is probably a prerequisite to it, but we'll figure out a way to write that. Yeah, but those are going to fit in for sure under here. But and then under functions, we can talk about anonymous functions, function keyword arrow functions. Yep. But let's talk about scope really quick. We can keep going down that path. So first would be global scope. Then we could talk about function scope. Then we can talk about block scope. Modules are a thing, and module scope is a thing. I think TypeScript would potentially get its own tree. But I don't know. I wouldn't really mention it here. So the DOM would fit in as after this because I think like to even use the document object model, you need to know about functions. You need to know how to access properties on objects, how to do like callbacks. So all of those things you should understand before you can start interacting with the DOM. Which is why I'm going to put DOM as a completely separate tree because it's like before you can even touch that, there's a lot of the stuff here that you need first. Yeah, I think I'm going to put modules as a top level thing here. Like JavaScript modules. But when we talk about module scope, the prerequisite or like the related one is here. Oh yeah, conditionals. Conditionals will be at the top level as well. And then loops iteration. Will be at the top level as well. So private and public really only comes into play when you're dealing with classes. And then classes are like syntactic sugar for function constructors. So really, like when you're learning the basics of JavaScript, it's not like when you're learning like Java or C#. You actually don't learn about like public versus private. Yeah. But yeah, let's start to. This is good. I think yeah, promises will also be a top level node, and then objects are going to be a top level node. And well, I don't know if these will be top level. These will probably be under data types. So yeah, let's put objects under data types. Where do we have data types? Primitive versus reference. Honestly, I think I just want primitive types. And that includes number, boolean, string. And then we have another node called objects. And then another node called arrays. Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll go back to the top level. So someone mentioned promises. Yeah, I think there should be a top level node called promises. Though I don't think it'll be top level. I think the top level will be async. And that will be we'll have things like callbacks, and then also promises will be underneath that. So maybe we have asynchronous JavaScript. And then this asynchronous has a subnode of callbacks. And then we also have promises. Yeah, so I'm reading the chat again. We have, and what's up, Katif? We're basically mapping a beginner's understanding of JavaScript right now, and we're trying to do it. At least I am by only reading chat and only doing what I know. Eventually, I'm going to cross reference this with other diagrams that people have made before, but I'm doing my best to kind of just like map how I understand things. Window and document are we're going to talk about in DOM manipulation, because those only exist when you're dealing with JavaScript in regards to the web browser. Because the interesting thing to note is everything in this diagram so far isn't specific to a web browser, right? All of this stuff applies when you're writing JavaScript on the backend, like in Node.js or in Dino as well. But things like window and document are specific to DOM manipulation. And also that does relate to global scope, right? So if we're talking about global scope, then we talk about like the window object if we're talking about the browser. But if we're talking about backend JavaScript, then we talk about like the capital G global. Yeah. States, events, and listeners. So okay, we can start expanding on functions, right? Let's expand functions for a second. Here. Oh no, not that. What do we want to talk about? We want to talk about like arguments to a function, parameters. Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you in a second, Eras Dev. I took a D3 example on CodePen, and then we just modified it to visualize this kind of data. Yeah, arguments and parameters, return. Definition versus invocation. Not versus. So like, I think I just want definition. So like define functions. And like declare them. But that is different from invocation, like talking about invoking, which deals with like creation of a new scope and stuff like that. So we've got arguments and parameters, knowing about like return. Really, I think return would be potentially a subtree of invocation. Like you're not going to even talk about a return value unless you know how to invoke a function. Yeah, closures. So there was good stuff in the chat. I'll have to look at that in a second. But yeah, closures for sure. And then first class and higher order functions. First class functions and higher order functions. Um, I think it needs to be a subtree of definition versus declaration. Yeah. Yeah. I will address all of your messages about what I'm using and what I'm doing in just a second. I want to follow these thoughts really quick so I don't lose them. We already have 3.5, so yeah, this is gonna be 3.6. Um, or no, is this gonna be a subtree of first class functions? Because when we talk about a function declaration, like we can put a function into a variable, and that's what makes functions first class. Right? And then higher order functions are functions that return a function or accept a function as an argument. So we honestly, actually, we haven't done this yet, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create higher order functions, but its parents are going to both be return and arguments and parameters. So got another node, call it 311. It's called higher order functions. It has a parent of JS31, like that, but it also has a parent of return. So if we find returns ID, we can put it in there and it'll have two parents because they're like basically they're both prerequisites to it. Yeah, so return has this ID. And higher order functions will also have that as a parent. Oh, look at that. That's nice. We should probably think about that for other things as well. Like, what are some prerequisites? Like, honestly, let's do this. So under scope, we put global function and block scope, but there's also module scope. So I want to add another one here called module scope. But you can't really learn about module scope until you've learned about modules. So modules now becomes a parent as well. So this has the ID of JS6. So let's see how it's going to rearrange our tree when we do this. Oh, nice. So modules is there, and that's a prerequisite to that. This is cool. Okay, so yeah, let me tell you how I did this. There was a code pin I found. This one. And they're using a couple of libraries. So d3.js is a thing that lets you do like visualizations in the web browser. And then they have this package called d3.dag, which automatically lays out the nodes so they're not overlapping. We kind of just saw that happen. So like when I added these as parents, it shifted things around so that it can be, it can look nice. And so I took their code and then I adapted it to work with the data that I'm working with. So this was the base code. And then, and actually I'll just add this as a reference here. And then I changed some things. So I looked at, if you look at their code, they have just a base JavaScript file that just had nodes with IDs, but I wanted to add more metadata. So I added a title property. And then in the code, I updated it so that, this actually gets complicated. So I updated it so that it uses the title, but then we wanted the text to wrap automatically. So we found some code to wrap the text inside of a node. And basically all of this is SVG. So D3 is like you can do more than SVGs with it, but one thing you can do is like declaratively define how this SVG should look. Yeah. I would say though, if you don't want to, because this is a lot of manual code, right? Like this has to be running in the web browser, and then right now, my workflow is I edit this JSON file, refresh the browser, and it loads that data in. There are tools that are more visual. or like you don't have to actually edit the code. Um, but I couldn't find ones that do exactly what I want. But one thing you could also check out, which I contemplated using, was Mermaid.js. So Mermaid.js lets you do, for example, charts that are text-based. So you can basically create a chart that looks like this entity relationship diagram with pure text. So you have text that says, I want an entity relationship diagram. We have these two entities, which are a 0 to, or like a 1 to many relationship. And then it creates these diagrams from your text. But they have, which is newer, this thing called mind map. And you can write your stuff out like this, and it starts to create more of like a branching diagram. So yeah, I haven't used free mind map before, but the cool thing about these is that it's this syntax, mermaid syntax, is actually supported by GitHub. So for example, we have an entity relationship diagram in our listed app. And when you look at it on GitHub, GitHub will actually visualize it. So there's plugins for Markdown to automatically create the visuals, which is pretty cool. This mind map one could be useful though. I just couldn't figure out, like, because these things have so many dependencies. I don't know if the mind map could have done that, but the way that this has like your nodes and then your ideas off of the nodes, this is pretty cool as well. Cool. Let's keep moving. So at this point, we were just talking about functions. Let me scroll back through chat to see if there's any other things that I missed. Yeah, we talked about higher order functions, built-in functions, self-running functions. So built-in functions would basically be like the browser APIs, right? Like set timeout. I mean, set timeout or set interval probably are under things like async.js. Let's just go ahead and write that because we mentioned it. Yeah, so like callbacks, promises. I think a subtree of callbacks, like once you learn what a callback is, then you should be able to learn what or you should learn about set timeout and set interval, set immediate. Here, that's a lot. I'm just gonna do set timeout and set interval. But the other thing is, you can't learn about callbacks until you've learned about higher order functions, right? Because callbacks are functions that are passed as arguments to other functions. So we can actually find higher order functions, and then this is going to be a parent of callbacks. What's up, 7 Hero? This. Ooh, I like that. So in order to learn about asynchronous JS, you need to learn about callbacks, but even to get to about callbacks, you need to know about higher order functions. That's fun. I like the way this looks. It's really, I like this. And then actually this gets to what I've talked about before, is like you can't really learn async await unless you've learned about promises. So I'm going to put async await here. But it's a child of promises, like this. Yeah, like that. Cool. Was there anything else that I missed? Oh yeah, do I want to add a node for browser APIs specifically? The thing is, when you start getting into like document dot or element dot query selector, all of that is DOM manipulation. That's going to have its own tree. And then things like set interval, set immediate, those are specific. I think it's okay to have them under callback. So like, what are the other? Actually, that might even be its own subtree. Browser APIs, like what are the things you can do in the browser? Like get a user's location, access the webcam, all of those things I think are like a completely separate subtree. Cool. Yeah, okay, self-running functions. So immediately invoked function expressions. So ifs, immediately invoked function expressions, um, would be, yeah, so self-running. So yeah, that's an iffy. Where would we put that in here? Probably under, I guess, just invocation. Like, learn how to invoke functions, but then also learn that you can invoke a function like while defining it. So immediately invoked function expressions. But the parent is this. Return and invocation. I don't know if you technically need to know return to do ifs, because you can have an iffy that doesn't return anything. Um, yeah. So we do have closures. I think to even talk about closures, you also have to know about scope. So let's make scope a parent of closures. Wow. Let's see how it did it. Yeah, so functions, you can learn about closures, but to learn about closures, you need to learn about scope because closures essentially close over a scope. And I guess you technically need to know about return as well because the closure happens when you return some function from another function. So, but probably higher order functions is the other parent then. Cool. Ooh, error handling. Yeah, good call, Mr. Extremely. So I think that's just like a top level node here. Um, error handling. And then here we'll talk about try catch. Finally, over here, we'll also talk about the error object. Or like just exceptions, which would be like throwing exceptions. Can I make the lines arrows? Yeah, yeah, we can. Let's look up how to do that. We would have to modify the drawing code, but like right now, the code is drawing paths here. So for all of the links of the directed acyclic graph, we add a path and a stroke. So right here, we could potentially just put a, because everything points down, nothing points up. But if we wanted an arrow, it would basically be on the end of each one. No, the color doesn't mean anything. It's just visually. One thing that I did was I made everything purple because the colors that they were choosing were hard to see. But I think I can put that back. Um, yeah. This. Ooh. So it just chose random colors to make it more visual, but this white text is really hard to see on some of those nodes. It is pretty cool though because it creates the code creates a gradient from one node to the other. But yeah, for now I just made everything purple so we can see it, and then what I could do is I could right now it's generating the color map. I could pick a good color map that I know has good contrast with white text, and then we can just pick from that set of colors. Yeah, and then that's another thing we could do is like figure out based on the color that was chosen for the background, choose either white or black text to make sure that it's a good contrast. But we would have to somehow calculate that because right now the list of colors I don't know where it's at. Here, the list of colors is just like interpolated. Oh, d3.interpolate rainbow. Are there other ones? Scale chromatic. Fascinating. What if we interpolate the sine bow? Or what if interpolate cool? I was trying to pick an interpolation where white text would look good on everything. Mm, interpolate turbo, maybe? Let's try it. Interpolate coding guard. Yeah, I think you can create your own interpolation function. Wow. Wow. It's still hard to see in some of like the yellows though. Scheme dark. Is that gonna break? Yeah, that broke. It's not an interpolation. That is curious though. So yeah, if we make the text black for everything else, the contrast isn't the best on these though. Oh yeah, call stack would go under functions for sure. We'll add that. All right, I'm gonna stop messing around with this. we're just gonna go back to purple. What do you have? Who is that? Joe or Joj? Black white. Oh, this is the function to determine should the text be black or should the text be white. But the issue is, well, not the issue. I would also have to figure out how do I get the background color of the parent node. It wouldn't be that hard. I'm not gonna worry about it though. If you want to send me the link to where you found that, I'll put it in there so we can try it later. But yeah, let's put call stack on the list. So call stack would be, it's in the code. Whose code? D3's code? Call stack would be after invocation. Oh, it's your code. I see. Well, then I'll just copy paste it from Twitch chat, and I'll give you credit. That cool. Yeah. Call stack parent would be invocation. Yes. Yes. Mm, okay. Call stack. And then do we put recursion on here? Maybe not. All right, everyone that has ideas, now is your time to listen. We're going to start at the top of the tree, and if you think of something that we don't have listed here yet, let me know. Let me know. So it all starts with JavaScript. These are the things you need to know about JavaScript. Oh, well, we should definitely expand. Okay, just before we review the whole tree, let's expand the conditionals and loops and iteration nodes. Because under conditionals, you should know about if else, but then you should also know about ternary. Switches, yep. Or I guess we'll say switch. Switch cases? Switch? Switches? I guess I'll just put switch. They'll know what we're talking about. Apparently, 4-1, 4-2, 4-3. Oh, it just takes a really long time to render this now because we have so many dependencies here. Did I miss anything else? ECMAScript versions, honestly, would be good. We could have a whole node for like modern JavaScript. But the thing is, these days it is just JavaScript. But I guess it's the note there would be to understand that like it's an evolving language. Let's see. Modules should not be a level 1 thing. Well, what would the other prerequisite be then? Because learning how to put code into modules, what do you need to know to be able to do that? So browser support, yeah, we had that in the about learning about the web. It would probably make sense to have it here as well. So yeah, oh yeah, so let's just make notes while we're thinking about it. So, well, I can't have comments in JSON. Yeah, by modules I mean imports and exports. Yeah, but here's the thing to think about. As a beginner in programming in JavaScript, your end goal is getting to a point where you can learn React effectively. And in React, we use modules. We use imports and exports. So that is something you can learn and you can use directly in the web browser without any extra tools. And the thing I think it's top level because you can actually start there. You can start by defining your code in modules. Yeah, like code organization is what it would potentially be under, but I do think that it can be taught as a fundamental that isn't too far of a stretch. No, it is, but I would argue that you can start there today and it's not that hard to do. That's really all I'm saying. Because typically the way people are taught is that like everything is global and you just add a script tag and everything's global, but I think you can I don't think it's that much of a stretch early on if you introduce modules. Oh yeah, okay, so type coercion, equality. Those are things we need to add, but we haven't yet. But yeah, I could potentially be convinced otherwise, but I think it's not that far of a stretch. I think if someone is already setting out to learn to code, modules is something you can grasp pretty early on. Um, Even if you don't know like the depths of functions and stuff like that, because it's just modules. All right. Do code smells fall under code quality? Uh, sure. Yeah. Um, that could also just be like its own subtree, though, like code craftsmanship. And you can talk about code organization, like code smells, best practices, design patterns, stuff like that. But basics of JavaScript don't really cover all of that. Oof, this is really struggling with our graph now. It's a little too complex, I think. Um, all right, let's expand loops and iteration. Mm. For while, do while, um, and then also recursion. We have too many like parent dependencies. We've blocked the browser. Um, let's look at our tree really quick. We could potentially remove some of the parents. Yeah. So like this one having a parent of scope probably makes it really hard. I don't know. I think one thing I could look into though is instead of having to calculate the layout every time, we could potentially look at this library that we're using, the d3.js, and if we want this to be really, we can actually just export the SVG. Like we can literally just take this generated SVG and then embed that in a page. It doesn't need to have all of the code to interactively build it out. So I'm not too worried about it taking a really long time to load. Okay. Um where do we put equality? So talking about type coercion and strict equality versus loose equality. Where does that fit in our tree here? Well, the other thing is though, I don't want this to just be an image because eventually it's going to be interactive. Like you're going to be able to like expand and collapse the nodes. Um, and then also when you click on a node, it'll give you resources for like how you can learn that thing. Should it be? I was thinking maybe it's under like if else or like under conditional as well because the only time you're checking for equality like is like well the result of an equality is a boolean and you would use that boolean in some kind of conditional. I agree with that. Let's put it under there. Um, oh, programming is happening. Shh, shh. So we have quality. Um, and then under that we'll have type coercion. And I guess we can do strict versus loose equality. Well, do you learn about type coercion first, or do you learn about strict versus loose equality first? I think like type coercion. It's true. I mean, that comes under like variable assignment then. Okay. We'll make it a prerequisite here. But that reminds me, we need a node for operators. So we have it. I think I'll put it under expressions because operators are typically embedded inside of expressions. Um, so operators are things like multiply, divide, add. There's also like the unary plus operator and bitwise operators and stuff like that. Under iterating, well, both of those would be under operators, because those are incrementing operators. Wait, did I not save it? Oh, I have to refresh, and then it takes forever to load. We're making a skill tree. In a second, I'll show you the other ones that we worked on today. Yeah, this is. We'll have to figure out how to optimize this. I think. I think we'll be able to take like the result or the output of d3.dag, which is the thing that's figuring out the layout. Mm, I think it's possibly this function call, like getting the descendants. I don't know. Well, that's taking a really long time. Hmm. It's still going. Well, um, we've done it. That's just a little too much. The only thing we added was operators. So let's see. CSS family tree. Can that have nodes? Well, I guess it wouldn't have nodes that have multiple parents. That I think it's one of the main issues with the calculations here is when you give it multiple parents, it has to recalculate where all the nodes go. Oh, got it. Okay, I'm actually just gonna make a note of ones I need to add, and then I'll worry about optimizing it later. Yeah, and this the reason it's not performing well is it's calling itself within itself, which it's really like the nested dependencies that create it. So for JS, we need to talk about operators. Was there anything else? Because we already got type coercion and inequality in there. Well, yeah, in a second I'll show you an example of what I mean, but we basically have one node that has parents from different parts of the tree. Like this. So like callbacks. So when you're learning about asynchronous, you'll eventually learn about callbacks. But to learn about callbacks, you need to have already learned about higher order functions. And so that's why this has like this crazy layout like this. Is like it's reaching way over here. And then like for modules, or for if you want to learn about module scope, like you can learn about the basics of scope, but if you want to learn about module scope, you kind of need to know about modules. And so that's why this is like way over here like that. Cool. One thing is though, we could start expanding on the objects node here. So object access, property manipulation, nested object access, those kinds of things. Honestly, objects could really even just be their own tree. There's a lot about objects that you need to know as a beginner. I'm gonna make some notes of that. And then also like arrays have its own one because there's like so many methods and things you need to know about arrays. Map, filter, and reduce could be under the JS one. So we have JS, and then we've got higher order functions, but we could put map, filter, reduce for each. Yeah. And then we probably need another node for HTTP requests with things like fetch or XML HTTP request. External tools like Axios or GOT. Yeah. Well, actually, we could call this Ajax. But that's where our other trees could come into play, because in order to do that, you should understand data formats. And so if you look at our web tree, which we worked on earlier, we could say that data formats like JSON are a prerequisite for working with HTTP requests inside of JavaScript. So yeah, this is the tree we made earlier today called How the Web Works. But we've got stuff like HTTP, client server model, request response cycle, all the stuffs of HTTP, data formats, tools, all of that. And then we also have a node for HTML, or a tree for HTML, talking about elements, links, optimization, and then JavaScript is one of the biggest ones. There's a lot to learn about JavaScript. Cool, but I'm gonna end the stream here. This was a fun use of my time. I enjoyed it. I appreciate you all for all of your input. Here, we'll load the JS one. It's gonna take a long time, but this is a fun exercise to really also just like map out your own knowledge. Like, what are the things that you know, especially if you've been doing this for a long time. But there's more. There's more to add, and I guess I'll end on like looking at some of the existing ones. So like roadmap.sh is one that's existed for a while, but I don't think it goes as in depth as what we've done for like the JavaScript one. So let's look at, well, this is new. This is new. So they have variables. Yeah, doing things like talking about hoisting. But the thing is, like, hoisting, does it have a, no, it doesn't have a prerequisite of functions. But the other thing about this is it looks very linear. But in reality, it's more like this. It's like you start at the top. You kind of like get the higher level things and then you start to go deeper. But when you go to these deeper things, they have prerequisites that are like over here. Um, are you saying is roadmap even useful? Because that's the question that I'm asking, right? Is like, okay, this is visually it's showing you something, but um, I don't think this lays them out in the right way. As far as I know, yeah, a lot of beginners will use this as a resource because, for one, it tells them like what they should be learning next, right? Or like it gives them a high level view of what they should even do, especially for people that are teaching themselves. It can be really hard to even decide what do you learn next or what should you learn, and so these roadmaps tend to help with that. Um, but yeah, the thing is like it's not that these aren't useful. I think the main issue with like the existing things that are out there are it doesn't do a good job of talking about prerequisites. Like what do you need to know first, and then also helping like with the ordering of things. Yeah, I think George, that's actually probably exactly what will happen. Like this will all start out as a single JavaScript node, and then it only gets expanded if you click on it in subnodes, and each node will tell you like how many subnodes there are. Um, yeah, something like that. And then the code doesn't have to work as hard because we could just run the D3 DAG layout on like the subtree instead of the entire tree, which should, well, that's going to be tricky when like you expand modules. Well, actually that could be interesting. So when you expand modules, it'll show you module scope. But then maybe you haven't expanded scope yet. So scope will be mostly unexpanded except for like one child node. Hmm. Yeah. The other cool thing about this is someone can track their progress in learning, right? So as a self-learner, you say you want to learn JavaScript, you can basically have like a certain amount of progress for each of these nodes. Like the nodes can be green if you've like mastered them or if you've uh, like learned about that thing. And then the nodes that are lower in the tree will like be empty, so you know like that's the stuff you need to work on next. That kind of thing. Cool. I'll push this up to GitHub at some point. I don't know if I'm gonna push up what everything I did today. I probably want to create a separate repo for it. But so if you want this stuff, just keep an eye on my GitHub organization. It'll be there eventually. I wouldn't ever become a programmer without the gamification of courses. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the other thing is you could start to gamify it. Like if you want to unlock the next node, you like I don't know, or like when you unlock it, you get badges or something like that. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go. Let's go on a raid. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Follow me over on YouTube. Check out my Twitter. Join us on Discord. If you had a question and I didn't answer it, or you want to keep chatting, and also join my mailing list if you haven't yet. I send out go live notifications, but also I will send weekly updates. I stopped sending weekly updates for a long time, but I'm going to send a weekly update this coming Monday. And it's going to be a big rundown of basically everything that's happened in the past month. So be on the lookout for that. Sign up for the mailing list. Let's go. And I'll see you later, CSS Clown. I don't know. Have I ever seen your name in the chat before? Maybe a long time ago, but you're a sub. I appreciate you, and you have a cool Twitch name. And see you later, Electrothermal. Thanks for always lurking and hanging out. But yeah, if you want raid messages, go to this site. If you're a sub, you can use this raid message. If you're not a sub, you can use this raid message. You can also come up with your own raid message. And I'll see you tomorrow. I will be streaming Listed. We're going to continue with integration tests. With Playwright tomorrow on Listed. So check out the calendar. I'll be live tomorrow. All right. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And until next time, here's this.